Jesus Freak here, and this is just a matter of translations in general. That I've found that a number of times, this translation or that translation, they'll be prone to translate certain passages in a way that is eisegetical, that they read their own beliefs into the translation rather than trying to translate what's written. And obviously, this is the most infamous example of an eisegetical translation. This Jehovah's Witness abortion. But I think to varying degrees, because we're humans and we can't help it, that every translation, even the more reliable ones like the King James and the New King James, they do it from time to time. And study Bibles can get eisegetical too when they're forcing their interpretation onto the text instead of taking the text at face value. And I mean, it's not like I haven't been prone to this myself, but I've tried to avoid it. I think any reputable translator is going to try to avoid this. But it comes in. Familiarity, I guess, or not just familiarity with one particular understanding, but familiarity specifically with the King James Version, or, familiarity with one translation or another. Nowadays, you had the NIVs have been gaining ground on the King James for years, which, no other translations really managed it to the extent the NIV has, although maybe the ESV has been getting close. In some circles, I guess you could say the NRSV might have had that ground. But every one of these translations is going to have the issue, because we're humans, we're imperfect, we make mistakes, and sometimes we'll do something that we'll come up with a translation that's not right because we're making assumptions. And maybe the translation isn't wrong, but it's done in a way that tends to push our interpretation in a direction it wasn't meant to be. For example, all the uses of charity in the King James Bible and the Pauline epistles and the Petrine epistles, where it really should have said love, because, the word charity, it was right in 1611, but semantic drift has caused it to mean something else. And eisegetical translation may even be more subtle, like the difference between one choice of translation and another. For example, 1 Corinthians 9:5, which, it's closer than I thought it was. And I'm partially at fault here. I did a very stupid quick translation when I handled the verse, and I made this exact same mistake. But in the KJV, it has the correct reading here. Have we not power to lead about a sister or wife, as well as the other apostles, and as the brethren of the Lord, and Cephas? And the Catholic translation. It's a Catholic translation from 1941. By the way, the New American Bible actually fixes this problem and translates the verse correctly, if loosely. It reads, have we not a right to take about with us a woman, a sister, as do the other apostles and the brethren of the Lord and Cephas? The problem here, it's not that they necessarily distorted it, but they picked the wrong translation of the word. And I did the same thing. It so happens in both Greek and Latin that the same word for woman also can mean wife. And the correct translation was wife, and it's not, they're not saying literally sister. They're using the sense, we call people brother or sister because they're brothers and sisters in Christ. And that's what Paul's doing here. He says a sister, a wife, and the NAB's translation, a Christian wife, is loose, but it gets the gist of what they're trying to say. And this is one example of an eisegetical translation that, the translators had a theological axe to grind and deliberately translated something wrong, even though, it's not technically wrong, because it is still an accurate translation, which can't be said of, say, the translation of John 1:1 here, or that one verse in Colossians where they keep adding the word other to push the idea that Jesus was a created being, which he's not. He's begotten, not made. And the only reason I keep this around, of course, is because, just in case I got a witness to witnesses, I might be lucky and find one who will accept the King James, but you're not guaranteed that. Anyway, Jesus freak out.